Hi everyone. Morning, good evening, good afternoon to wherever part of the world you are in right now. So we are going to be starting in a couple of minutes. So just to give some of the participants more time to get into Zoom. All right, I guess we're ready. Hello again, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. It's good to see you in this webinar. Thank you for attending. And again, welcome to another webinar series brought to us by Cypher Learning. Today, let's talk about micro learning and some of the best practices and how we can get started with micro learning. I think that this is going to be a very timely topic after a few months of us being in a, I would say, remote learning mode, and then having to do all of those stuffs as teachers, preparing all of our lectures. And then now I think we're seeing what's going on, a bigger picture of what's happening with us and what's happening with our students. So let's try and see how else we can improve teaching and learning and what else we can share with you in today's webinar. So I am Jen Padernal. I'm the e-learning director for e-learning integration director for Cypher Learning. And my colleagues are also here from all over the world. So later on, probably we can introduce them. So let's get started. So probably we have been hearing a lot about this micro learning type of delivery of teaching or creating of content. But what is really micro learning? We've heard about this a lot, but and probably most or some of you are already doing this. But for those who have just heard micro learning, let's try to share a few things about micro learning and let's see how it can help us. So micro learning is not only for most of the people when they hear micro learning, they think about training, they think about business organization. But this is not only for business organization. This can also be done, and it is also going to be very effective. And this is also effective for schools, like later on you'll see how, and I will show you some of the examples on how we can do micro learning and how micro learning can work for teachers, both for teachers, for schools, for students, and for businesses. So micro learning is known as a chunk of learning content or chunks of learning content. Some call it bite size approach to learning that creates smaller or shorter learning materials, usually 3 to 10 minutes short or long, 3 to 10 minutes long, if it's a video or learning materials that can be finished in one sitting, very short time, bite size, really bite size content, nuggets of content. This is also often called a learning on demand, something that you can always, or a learner can access anytime that they need it. So that's kind of like the simplest definition or introduction of micro learning that I can share with you. It's really a size of content. So you're probably thinking, what's a bite size type of content? How short it is? It's really short. Later on, I'll show you some example. So I also wanted to share with you probably and how I experience micro learning. So I've kind of like I have a few hobbies that I do, and one of the hobbies I have is baking. And I learned most of the things that I know in baking by watching short tutorial videos, good for 3 to 5 minutes. For example, if I want to do or if I want to learn how to put a great or a good frosting or how to frost a cake, I would often look for short tutorial videos on the internet and watch it several times and then do it. Okay, so that's kind of like an example of how micro learning is helping me. I'm fond of watching short content. However, That does not mean I am skipping the important aspects of learning. It's just that it is a fast way. The fastest way for me to learn specific skill or technique is to look for, kind of like the short versions of those content, something that I can access in a fast way, something that I can watch quite quickly, something that I can learn quite quickly. So I also took a full day of making a fondant course. So what I'm trying to say is that when we say micro learning, it doesn't mean that you're not taking the full course or you're skipping the entire course. It's just that there are smaller versions of that or smaller content that you can easily access and that can help you when you need it every time that you need it. And I'm also a very visual uh, person. I'm a very visual learner, so I have a very short attention span. So smaller content and shorter video works for me a lot. Now, and it also helps students and learners with different styles and different ways to learn. It's always important for us educators to be able to identify and acknowledge the different ways and styles of learners and their learning needs because our students, each of our students are very unique. They learn differently and they create differently. So our lessons and activities must be based on the needs and abilities and capabilities of our learners. So most of the learners these days they have very short attention span, and I think that most of the educators who are here right now can relate to that. Especially if you're teaching in basic ed, probably elementary school or middle school, so you probably observe that your students have very short attention span, or those who are here right now with young kids who are studying or your children who are studying, they have very little or very short attention span. And most are very visual. Some of the learners also learn faster than the others. And what we want to do is to be able to help them. What's happening right now, and this is based on the observation also that I've had in the past few months because of what's happening because of this pandemic, most of us teachers have created long lectures. And when we are teaching and when we are training, or when training and teaching becomes too difficult to digest and gives our learners heartburn, stress, burnout. So it means that we probably need to look at bite-sized type of content or bite-sized approach probably would be a good alternative. Sometimes having long lectures, having long classes, having long modules or training even can cause learners to feel burnout, to feel stress, to experience heartburn because they're finding all of those materials too hard to digest already. So, and I believe that the current situation that we are experiencing right now, having to do long hours of online classes and having to do too many long assessments or prepare too many long lectures are causing stress not only to our students but also to ourselves, to us teachers. We're probably experiencing that. We're trying to prepare as many lessons as we can and those lessons are sometimes becoming too long of a lesson already or too long of a module already. It's not bad, it's just that studies also show that having long lectures and long modules are actually causing stress and burnout to learners and probably now to also to teachers. And the least that we want to happen to our learners is to experience something like this. I just saw this in Facebook this morning and then I grabbed it. Look at the picture. The picture actually, and then the one who shared it, an educator, I like the caption that he puts there. This speaks for itself. When a student is experiencing kind of like an information overload already, that's most likely what's gonna happen, and we don't want that to happen. So micro learning is an approach that might help. It might help us with this to at least ease up the stress and the burnout that we're experiencing. Having bite size or short or mini content helps break the monotony, the stress, the crunch time, the long hours of preparation, and probably sleepless nights. But we have to be very careful on how we do our micro courses or modules. There is more to it than just being short or mini. or bite size. There's more to it than that. We do not want to end up just doing a portioning style of a longer lessons or modules. Like we cut it, we copy paste it, and we call it micro learning. It's not like that. It's not going to be like that, and it shouldn't be like that. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of the types of learning content that you can probably look at and create and that you can use. So these are some of the type of micro learning content. You can have text or short phrases or paragraph, and then you can also have images or infographics that's rich in information already, illustrations, interactive activities, quizzes, and gamification are also type of micro learning content that we can look at and that we can prepare as teachers. Audio for students who are very auditory, and of course, video for visual students. Video actually and images are two of the most frequently used type of micro learning content. So we can think about this um, type of content that we can prepare. So you can have any of this. Can you put them together? Why not? Just as long as it's not gonna be looking like a full course already, therefore it's not going to be micro, so you can have a combination of this. Later on I will show you an example of that, but these are just some of the types of the micro learning content that you can use. Again, it's text, either text or phrase or a short paragraph, combination with some images or just images. Infographic will help. Interactive, make it interactive, make it engaging. That's one thing that's important. And then you can have an audio. Those podcasts that we always listen to, those could also be a type of micro learning content. And then videos, of course, are the most widely used, but make sure that your videos are just short videos. Maybe 3, 5, or 10-minute video will do. Don't make it too long, otherwise it's not going to be micro anymore. We don't want a full movie in our micro course or in our micro learning content. Okay, now um, there are several ways. These are some of the several ways by which you can create or start creating at your micro classes or micro content. Now, question: why do micro learning? What's in it for me if I do micro learning? I'm so used to creating long lectures. Probably that's what we have in our mind right now. Long lectures, full courses helps my students. That's the entire course. When we say micro learning, it doesn't mean that we're skipping the important parts of the full course or a full class or a full module. It's not like that. We're breaking it down into bite-sized portions so that it's easier for our students to understand and to digest. But it doesn't mean, again, let me repeat that, it doesn't mean that we are skipping or taking out the most important part or the entire course and just making it shorter. That's not the idea of having micro learning. So what are the benefits of micro learning, especially in an online distance environment? So these are just some of the many benefits of micro learning. For one, fast delivery. Okay, it can be delivered fast because it is short and it's bite size. So we're also able to prepare this easily and faster. Therefore, the delivery is also fast. It allows us to create wide variety of catalog of content that learner can choose from. Later on, I'm going to show you an example of that. And they can easily select content or topics that they want to review or go back to after attending a full course or after experiencing a full class. So let's try to connect that now. So they can go back to the short, bite-sized, concise content after attending probably or experiencing a full module or a full class. Another benefit of microlearning, aside from that, you can have a wide variety of content. It's also engaging. You can make it very engaging. It's easy to digest because they are small or bite size, easy to absorb. We can remember quite easily. Retention is uh, proven to be proven to be faster and easy when we're doing bite size content. It's more focus, and of course, one of the most important thing here, it's reducing. It helps reduce reading fatigue. So imagine you reading kind of like long reading materials, unless you're fond of like really reading long materials. But imagine your students facing the screen and having to read all of those long materials. Sometimes it can already cause reading fatigue. So we want to avoid that. So those are just these are just some of the many benefits of doing micro learning. Aside from that, micro learning also helps prepare our students for the future. How is that? How is that micro learning is preparing our students for the future? For one, these are the future ready skills that we can focus on when we start creating our micro content. We have to make sure that our micro content or our content itself is still, developing these future ready skills of our students. And aside from that, I'd like to share with you the industry trends in employee training right now, which when our student graduates, they will be employed in a workplace that's already doing this uh, type of training. So e-learning for employee engagement, e-training, gamification is there, which is part of micro learning, video-based training, which is also part of micro learning, and micro learning itself is there. And learning on demand. These are now the trends in the industry, and this is what's waiting for our students. And we want our students to be able to be prepared for this. So as early as now, let's try and explore how to do micro learning or how to create micro content. So it's also kind of like preparing our students for the future or for the future workplace that's waiting for them. Now, there are also common misconceptions about micro learning, and I also wanted to focus on those area. So the common misconception about micro learning, these are those common misconception. For one, a lot of people are thinking that micro learning, it's just about creating chunk of content, or it's just about portioning or partitioning the content that we have. The long module is just about that. Well, for one, yes, we create bite size of the long content, but it's not just about creating a fragment of the content or partitioning our entire lesson plan or module. It's also about creating relevant, engaging, concise bite size of lessons or modules of knowledge where learners will actually learn something, even if it's short, because we could just, copy paste a short paragraph and that's it. But we have to think about and look at, can that short content actually, can learners actually learn something from that short content that we have created? So it's not about, well, I have 5 paragraphs and I will break it down. I will just copy paste each paragraph and call it micro learning. It's not that. We have to remember that the content should also be relevant. It should be engaging. It should be concise lesson, but full of knowledge also. It can't be short, but it should be substantial. Okay, that's something that we also need to think about. It can be a short standalone module and not just a portion of the paragraph that has been copied and pasted from the original module. It has to have a clear learning objectives that when put together is actually a part of an entire course. Another misconception about microlearning, that microlearning will replace a full course. It's not meant to replace a full course. Microlearning is not meant to replace an actual class, but it is actually a supplement, a very good supplement or reinforcement that will help or that helps make topics sticks and also helps retention of topics that has been discussed in a full class. For example, if a student has already taken a formal class or has experienced a full course, it helps them when we create micro topics or micro content out of that full course or full modules, it helps the learners go back to certain topics that they want to review or they want to learn deeper without having to do the entire full course all over again. It's kind of like really learning on demand. So we can prepare something like that. Another misconception about micro learning, that micro learning is applicable for all topics, that micro learning can be applied for all topics. This is another misconception. I'm not saying that micro learning does not work in all areas. While micro learning is believed to be applicable in all areas or to all areas of discipline, it might not be wise to do it in a very complex subject matter or very complex area. For example, when we are or where someone is trying to learn how to operate a new complex machine or software operation or in the medical field. So it would help that they have a full modules or course for that. You can't be thinking of like, I'm just gonna take out how to cut a, how to open a stomach probably. So it has to be, there's also we need to think of the appropriateness. There are appropriate subject area where micro learning is really applied. So it can be used, but for complex subject area, micro learning again can be used to reinforce or to complement those courses. So it can be used to reinforce or complement the learning being provided in a full course for the learner, especially in complex subject matters or in complex topic or in complex areas. So that's how we see it. It's not gonna be like, because I can create micro learning, even in a complex situation, I will create bite-sized content and that's just it. It's not. We can complement it. There are subject matter areas that needs to be longer, and there are subject matters, or there are subject areas that can be appropriately delivered to a micro learning content. Please remember also that micro learning is focused on helping people who are always on the go and needs a fast and easy access to short courses. Okay. And then next, another misconception is that micro learning is just video based and tech dependent. So it's not, while it is true that video and technology are two of the most frequent format that's being used, they're not the only format, or they're not the only content that can be made. It's not always, it doesn't have to always be like a video format, although video is one of the most widely used content format for micro learning. It is the most frequently used, but not always a requirement to create a micro content. It can be in any other format. As mentioned earlier, we have text, photos, images, infographics, gamification, audio are also other formats. Quizzes, that's interactive, is also another format that you can look at when you're creating micro content. Okay, another misconception, because micro content is small and bite sized, other people would say it's ineffective because it's too short. It is a it is a common misconception about micro learning. Because it's short, it's ineffective. There may be limitations, yes, but there are also statistics showing that about 83% of students learn better from short, concise, and precise modules and courses than longer courses, or than long, tedious, and monotonous once. Please remember that it's always about the elements that we put in there, that it's always about how we create the content. It's always about how we put it and how we deliver that makes learning effective, whether it's short or long. So micro learning, even if they're bite-sized and even if they're short, as long as we've done it correctly, then it's going to be effective. And last but not the least, out of the many common misconception about micro learning, is that it cannot be assessed. Because it is short and it has limitation, we often think that micro learning cannot be properly assessed. But it's not entirely true. Micro learning, as I mentioned earlier, can form part of a much more structured learning or training delivery program that still assesses learners' progress and performance that will eventually help them move to the next level of the course. So they're taking short, bite-sized content, and as they progress in each of those content, they can move forward to the next. Later on, I will show you how it's happening when we have the tool, when I showcase to you the tool that we can use for micro learning. Right? Now, how do we get started with micro learning? What are the things that we need to prepare for? I have three simple, this is always a framework that I use whenever I prepare my modules, whenever I prepare my learning materials, or whenever I want to prepare something. In this case, this is also something that I wanted to share with you that you can use when you want to get started with micro learning. First, of course, is you need to plan. You need to have a clear objective and ask yourself, why do you want to do micro learning? What's your objective? What are you trying to achieve? And then, of course, assess your capabilities, the school, the students, the teachers. Identify all of the barriers and constraints. Try to get to know the learning needs of your learners, and of course, the readiness of the teachers. It has to be aligned. We need to know all of this stuff before we start creating our micro content or micro learning courses or modules. Then after that, of course, is we implement. We have to make sure that our content is always readily available in the platform that we're using. And the platform that we're using is supporting micro-learning style of teaching and learning. And then after implementation, of course, we need to evaluate if what we have done is successful. We need to look at the success factor, the impact of that uh, uh, micro learning content to our learners, and of course to us also as teachers or as educators. And if we need to make adjustment, please do not hesitate to make adjustment. Probably in the first few tries, you feel that you're not successful, then you can change something and improve it. That's always going to be the case. Now, it's also important that when you're doing microlearning, you have the proper tool and the proper technology to use. Now, one of the most effective platform that I've been using to create micro courses and micro content is Neo LMS. So Neo is a learning management system that supports micro learning. It allows us teachers to create, manage, and automate all of our micro learning activities, whether it's going to be online or whether we're doing something that's offline. That's also very effective. It allows us also to track the progress of our learners. So this is a very good tool that we can use that supports micro learning. Now I'm going to show you a live demo of, please allow me to share my other screen. I'm going to share with you a live demo on how a micro course or a micro content can be created in a learning management system. All right, are you seeing my screen now? Okay, there. So this one is a sample of a Neo LMS instance where I created samples of micro learning content. So in here, this is the visitor, we call this the visitor portal or the visitor, the login page. Even before in a student or a learner logs into a platform where they can access the content, they can also the teacher can already create catalog of courses here. So in this catalog, I've created here knife skills. I'm not a chef, but I just find it interesting to probably create a sample about knife skills. So in here in the catalog, you'd see knife skills, micro learning modules on basic knife skills. So when I open this, when the learner opens this, the learner would see that these are the short or micro courses available for him or for her. So if the learner is interested in seeing one of this or learning one of this, the learner clicks on that course and they enroll. Now I will go into the platform and access this as a student. So let's see. So this one is a student access. Let's see how those content would look like. There. So now I'm enrolled in the basic knife skills 101. It says here micro class 10 minutes. So there's also a duration here. I can see that I haven't started this lesson, so I will click start. And let's see what's inside. There. So in this micro course I have, there is a video, okay, that is 6 minutes long. This is a video that's 6 minutes long. I will turn the volume up so that you can also hear what's being said in this video. Let me share the computer sound.
Things first, before you
So
even start
notice
chopping, you
how
want to
the
make sure that
one
your
who's
cutting board is secure.
demonstrating
A wobbly
the video
cutting
is
board
talking
can result
about
in
all
your
of
knife
those
slipping
details
and
about
injuries
what
happening.
they are seeing.
So an
or
easy
about
fix
the
is to place a
topic.
damp paper towel
That's very
underneath
important.
your cutting board. You
And
can
see
also get a
also how this
non-slip
video
mat to put under the
is
cutting board, or
carefully
you can get a cutting
showing
board with
the
grips.
steps.
The next important thing
So
is to
when
make
we
sure you're gripping
create
your knife properly. If you
a
put your
short
finger on top
video,
of the
it's
knife,
not just
if you hold
I
too far back
created the
on the
video and
handle,
that's it.
if you have a
We
dainty
have
grip,
to look
those
at
are all
the
incorrect
finest
ways.
detail,
You want to put your finger in your thumb
tiniest
at the
details.
very
That
back of
will
the
help
knife
the
and wrap your
learner
fingers
actually learn
around
something.
it. That way you have a firm grip, and when you
Okay,
chop,
and
you're going to be in
forward
control
that
of
a
what's.
little bit.
We're going to start out with a
And then
dice.
look at the
So for
caption.
an onion, which is probably
There are
the
actually
book
captions
cuts
in here.
vertical like a wave.
Okay.
Dice. So
So
in
this is
most
very
recipes,
important. And
when
this
you
is
just
only
see
a
something that
6-minute
says
video.
dice, it should be a
And for
medium
sure, once we
size.
finish
The
watching
next cut
this,
we're
you'll
going to show
actually
you
learn
is
something.
mincing. The
Okay,
most
so
common
after
of these is
finishing or
minced
watching the
garlic.
video,
You want
create
to
a
remove the
very
root
short
end.
assessment.
And again, remember,
So
we're
I will
always using
now
that little
click
claw.
continue,
The
top
next
right
step
portion
is
of the
to
screen.
place the
I will
garlic
click
under
continue.
the blade, and then
And there's an assessment. I will take the quiz. I did not create too many questions in here. Just this is for just for a demo purpose. So I can have, remember I mentioned earlier that quizzes content should also be interactive. We can put images. So in Neo LMS, you can actually create quizzes with images and videos. This time I use an image. So I will answer this one. Click continue. And once I finish answering all of the the questions in the quiz, I will click finish. And right there, I've already finished the course. And I have my grade here. And the best part, I am awarded a badge. It says here, congratulations, you have achieved the level head chef. I mentioned gamification earlier. You can gamify all of those micro courses and micro learning content that you are creating in your learning management system. For example, in Neo LMS, it allows me to create a site-wide game that allows me to award points, badges, and certificate in each of the course that I am creating. So now I'm awarded here. I'm leveling up. So I created 3 levels for this course. So I'm now a head chef. And then I've been awarded 100 points. And I've been awarded a badge. And I can view my badge here. So if I click view your badge, I can see all of the badges that has been awarded to me as a learner. Okay. And then if I go and click home again, I could also see here that automatically after finishing basic knife skills, I am automatically enrolled in the next course because that can also be done in Neo LMS. Automatically, when you finish one micro learning course or one micro learning content, you automatically enroll the students in the next course. So now I'm enrolled in the next course over here. I'll click start and start taking it again. So here, it's a different format. So you have the video, and at the same time, you have an image here that's related to the video that the students will be watching. So I'm in a different course now. Remember what I mentioned, that after finishing one micro content or one micro module, automatically Neo LMS is enrolling me into the next micro course. So that can be configured in the platform. So in here, this is another micro course. I have a video and I have an image over here to support that video. So let's play this video and let's see how this one's created. Okay. So you look at those details
Hi
that
there,
they
I
put
am
in
Oliver
this
Guz. In the
video.
culinary world,
And look at
there
how
are
they're
many
showing
different
it.
types of
Okay,
cuts.
how they're
Today,
focusing
I
on
am going to
each
show you
of what
some
needs to be
basic
seen by
knife
the
cuts.
learner. So let's
First off,
forward
the
it a little
first
bit.
step here
Look
is
at
to square
those.
off
Let me
the
pause that for
item.
a while. Look at those caption there at the bottom. It's showing, let me see, let's make it a little bit bigger. Look at that caption over there. Okay. So this is really a learning content. Okay. So
Then
our
slice
videos,
that
when we create micro
rectangle
videos, should be like this
lengthwise
also.
at
It's
a
not just
thickness
about
of
creating a video
1/16
and that's it.
inch.
So we have to make sure
For
that
knife
everything
sticks
here,
are so
all
good
of the
for
details
many
are here
dishes
and we can
such
see
as
it.
spring and
Okay.
summer rolls, or
Okay. So
diced
this one doesn't
for
have
stunning
a
salads,
quiz. So
stuffing,
when I
and this
finish watching the video,
superb tamagoyaki,
you'll
a
see that I have
Japanese
here the
style
progress. So
rolled
this is
omelette.
100%. That
Look at
means I've
that.
already finished it. So I've
Next and
finished one
third cut,
micro
twice bigger in size
course
than the
already,
brunoise,
right?
one
Now
quarter
let's see.
inch,
Let's go back
6 mm
to
slices
my
cut into
dashboard over
bâtonnets
here as a
produce
learner.
small dice.
Okay. Now, after that, I finished one of this course again, and I am now enrolled in the next lesson, classic knife skills. So all of these 3 lessons are actually part of a one learning path. So you can create also something like that. So I have basic knife skills here. So again, it's a combination again of video and, oh, there, I forgot my badge. I've been awarded 200 points and I probably earn another level, executive chef level. So don't you like that? You finish a course, you're awarded a badge, and you go up one level. So that's gamification. So this is how a student can or might see a micro course when it's done in a learning management system like this. But of course, all of this needs to be prepared by the teacher. And you can see probably that it's not really that hard to prepare. So how do we prepare a micro course? Let me log out as a learner and I will log in as a teacher and show you how we can create a micro learning course in the LMS. Okay, so let me just open my materials here. So when you're preparing your content, you can, my tip would be to always look for the images and videos that you're going to be needing or that you're going to be uploading in advance so that it's easy for you to upload it when you need it. So now I will start creating my micro class. Over here, when you log in as a learner in Neo LMS, the teacher dashboard will show you the add button over here. When it's your first time logging into Neo, you're not going to be seeing all of those subjects here. You're going to see a blank canvas, but there are tips on what to do next. For example, it will tell you that you don't have any courses yet, and you can click add to start creating your content. So I will click add here, and then I will click class, and then I will type in here, say my topic would be this one. This is where you put in the topic of your course or the title of your course, How to Master 5 Basic Cooking Skills by Gordon Ramsay. And then in the style area over here, there's a drop down. Okay. Click on the drop down and it will show you the different delivery style of teaching that DOLMS is supporting. And one of those is micro class. So choose micro class. It doesn't have any start and end date here, but you can put in the duration, maybe put in here 10 minutes. There. Choose a subject over here. Let's see. Let's try education over here. And then other options that you have for the basic settings of your class, you can put it in here in the options tab. So you can have a course code if you want. You can have a section code. What semester are you offering this? If you're offering this in a university. And then once all of this has been filled out, even the time zone, you can also fill it out from here. You save it. After saving, the next page that you will see is the page where you can start creating your content. And you are properly guided also in the platform. So it says here, your class is ready for content. The first step is to add modules by clicking add at the top of this page. So where is that add button? It's right over there. So click that add button and then click new lesson. And then you can probably put in here lesson 1 and then a little bit of a description, or you can put in the title directly over here. Save it. And then the next page shows you where to add your content. So you click page to add your content, put in the title there, right there. And then if you are adding a video, please make sure that you have the URL of that video ready or the photo. So in here, you would see that you are all, again, guided on what to do next after you've created the page or the section where you're going to put your content. It says here, click edit to create content using the built-in editor. There are 2 edit buttons in here. One is at the top right and one is at the lower left. Any of these 2 edit buttons, when you click on them, it will redirect you to the HTML editor where you have also all of these icons that will help you or will guide you when you want to start putting in your content. Okay, for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to add a video. I've already prepared the URL for my video here. I'm gonna copy. I copy and paste it here. I'm gonna put in a title, Master Chef. Click OK, and then save it. After saving, there, the video is already there. Your content is ready. Your micro content is ready. Okay, so that fast, that easy, in less than probably 2 minutes, we're able to do that. Again, I will show you. Let's play this one and let's look at how it's created.
First,
Look
how
at
to chop an
how
onion.
they're
This is
showing
the
all
root.
of the
That's
details.
absolutely
Is it
crucial.
making you
Leave that
hungry
on there.
right
If you cut
now?
that
It's
off,
making me
the onion
hungry.
will start to bleed
Okay.
and you'll start crying rapidly.
There.
Onion back together.
To look at all of those
Rice into the pan.
details.
Now, to make a plain, fluffy
And we
rice
listen to
exciting,
how
we're going to
the
infuse it.
instructor
3 cardamom pods,
is
just get the
giving
pods and
instructions
just
and
pierce
describing
them
what's being
so it
seen in
allows
that
all that
video.
flavor
So
to come out.
these are important details that we need to look at when we are creating our micro content. That's actually the things that we need to prepare for, and we have to make sure that the platform that we're using supports the micro content or micro module that we want to prepare for our students. In my case, Neo LMS always works for me. Okay, so and then because this is micro learning, we're also making this a micro webinar. We don't want to make this too long because we also wanted to entertain questions. But before I end this presentation, I have one more slide for you. Okay, I'm going to give you a few more tips on how to create a successful micro learning content. First, have a clear goal and objectives. You need to have you need to have a clear goals and objectives. You need to identify the barriers in making the content and in accessing the content. That includes the students. Your micro content, remember, should be learner centered. It has to be learner centered. We always have to think about our learners accessing the content. Are they going to be, will they be able to access it easily, quite easily? Will they be able to understand easily the content? Okay. Don't forget to innovate, recreate, redesign your content. Don't be afraid to recreate the content and be bold enough to redesign your content. Try as much as possible to create media rich content. That helps a lot because we want our content to be more engaging. Utilize gamification to boost engagement, just like what I did. Make sure that we assess and track students' progress also by using short quizzes and giving them short assignments, not too long, again, short quizzes. Pop quiz, let's call it a pop quiz. And then make sure that your content is concise and that it's learner centric, and that we always consider accessibility and using the right tool. And to end this presentation, let me leave you with this. Always remember our role as educators. We are facilitators of learning. We want to spark ideas. We want to share knowledge in a way that our students will not be stressed, and also we as teachers will not be stressed. And we need to guide our students into learning. With that, thank you very much. We are opening the floor for question and answer. Do we have any questions? Let me see. Let's open Q&A. So there's a question here. How to implement microlearning if related to students' learning characteristic varieties. Okay, so like what I mentioned, if I'm assuming that this has something to do with the learning styles of the learner. So you can create different format of micro learning depending on the learning styles of your students. If your students are very visual, I would suggest create a video content. Infographics would also help. Images will also help. If your students are auditory, a podcast will do, or an audio video will also do. If your students are fond of reading, as long as it's not something that's long to read, you can, have short phrases and paragraph as a content. URL. Okay, what URL are we requesting? Can you put the URL, please? URL for. Oh, this one I like. Can we use applications like TikTok for creating contents? Yes, I would say yes to that because I know an educator here in the Philippines who are really good at creating TikToks, and he has created a TikTok about his biology class. So definitely this will do. Flipgrid, if you want, you can. If you're familiar with Flipgrid, you can also use that. So yes for TikTok as long as it's an education content. It's gonna be fun. Next here we have how can we apply this in paragraph writing? So it really depends on the topic that you're discussing. Okay. You can create an infographic on how to write a correct paragraph or short video on how to write a correct paragraph. Okay, there's a I like this comment. It's not really a question, but it's more of a comment. You are very energetic and inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for the comment. I'm always energetic. My colleagues, they always call me the Energizer Bunny. I'm kind of like a battery that's always charged. Okay, what is the time recommended for the activities? For the activities, please make sure that they don't exceed 10 minutes. 5 minutes activities will do. Hope you can show us how to do gamification or create another video specifically for gamification. Perfect timing because tomorrow or next week, I mean, there's going to be another webinar about gamification. We are going to send out invitation again about gamification, so you can attend that webinar so that you will learn how to do gamification also. Is there a social chat function to help students working on projects together? Yes, in Neo LMS, there's a chat function. There's a discussion forum also. We have wiki, we have groups features that will allow students to collaborate on a project. So yes, we have that. Right? Do we have other questions? More questions that you want us to answer for you? Okay. So there's another question. So in a full course, can we put micro courses as a way of delivering lesson? Yes. In a full course, you can put micro lesson as a way of delivering lessons. That's actually the purpose. A full course that's created with micro content or micro lessons. All right. Do we have other questions? Clarifications? Any um, other things probably or questions that you might have? An app that can be used for micro learning? Anyone who wants to ask that? I'm already asking it. Well, some of the suggested apps that also work with Neo LMS, you can use Flipgrid, one of my favorite app. There's a lot of tools that you can use in creating your micro content. If it's a video, you can use Flipgrid. TikTok has already been suggested. Let's put TikTok into an education use because we are seeing a lot of things, a lot of people using TikTok. But now is the time for the teachers to shine and use TikTok for an education purposes. Another question here. Hi, Jen. How is micro learning any different than creating a regular class with short content? The interface, well, it's somehow similar. Okay. However, with micro content, we have to make sure that it's really very short, not more than 10 minutes long or 5 minutes long. But at the same time, it has to be interactive. Okay. It has to be engaging and it has to hit the target that you want the students to learn. Somehow similar to that, but as I've discussed earlier, we need to make sure that it's actually giving students knowledge also. It's not about portioning the larger full class. It's not just about kind of like cutting your long full courses into shorter ones and just call it micro content. It's not like that. We have other questions? Okay. Oh, this one's good. You said microlearning is just a supplement to a longer, full-blown module. In our situation now, do you think microlearning approaches can stand alone, if not be a large chunk of our approach to delivering learning? Micro content, micro modules are meant to be created as a standalone content or a standalone module. That's the purpose of it. That is why it's very important that when we create it, we have to make sure that everything is there, that the students will actually learn something. This is one example that probably can help with that. You're watching TV and there's always a TV commercial. TV commercials are meant, most TV commercials are only 30 seconds long. Within that 30 seconds that they're showing the TV commercial about a certain product, we already learned something and we already know about that product and we remember it for a long time. That because these TV commercials are meant to be very informative and they put in there the most important part that they want to the viewers to know. So that's the magic of 30 seconds. I think we can do that also in micro learning. The magic of 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, you're able to convey what you want to convey and the learners remember it. That's how TV commercials are done. So we can create our courses to be kind of like a TV commercial, very informative and everything is there. The important parts are there. Okay. Any other recommendation tips to help teachers cope up with stress? All right, that's a good question? Any other recommendation or tips to help teachers cope up with stress? If any one of us here in this webinar has also some tips on how we can cope up with stress, it's welcome. But for me, the best way to cope up with stress is to always smile and think about the silver lining. That's with what's happening right now. I know for sure that with what's happening right now, we're learning a lot of things, but it helps to breathe in sometimes, and breathe out and always smile and think about the positive outcomes that may come out of it. So that's my tip for you. Always try to be happy all the time, even if we're feeling stressed. And if you're a teacher and you're so stressed with the long lectures that you're creating, try micro learning. That's one for sure. It will take out all of your stress when you're creating your lectures. What is your best advice about assessment? In micro learning, make it short assessment. It does. This is something that I also wanted to share with everyone before we end. I know that we only have a few minutes. Please do not bombard your students, our students. I'm also an educator. That's why I can relate to what you guys are feeling. Please do not bombard your student with too many assessments. It's always quality over quantity. The reason why a lot of students are stressed right now, and most of them are calling for academic freeze, it's because a lot of assessments are being created for them. I know it's fun to create assessments when you're using, a lot of digital tools because it's easy. But we also need to think about the quality of the assessment over the quantity. Imagine your students having 8 subjects or 8 courses. If all of those teachers teaching 8 courses are going to give students 5 assignments each, that's kind of like 8 times 4. That's 40 assignments already. Try to put ourselves in the shoes of our students. Can we answer all 40 assignments in one week? That's gonna probably be causing us too much stress. So please try to think of quality over quantity. All right, here another question. How can we monitor the success of the gamification? Well, gamification is meant to to increase engagement of the students, but you can also associate gamification with a score rule. For example, in Neo LMS, let me share my screen just very quickly because here. So for example, in Neo LMS, you can set a score rule as to when the student will earn their points. So if they don't earn the points that is needed, example here, let me see if I have that. I think here. Okay. So if they don't earn the points that's needed, then they don't get the points for gamification. So we have a feature called score rules over here. So you can add a rule. Okay, how many points is needed or how much grade is needed for a students to earn the points in gamification. So you can always do that. Next, so microlearning can basically be used to reinforce students' learning at the same time they are taking their main courses. Well, yeah, yes, that's actually what we want to happen is microlearning will be one of the alternatives and a reinforcement to a full course. So we are giving our students options in what's the best way for them to learn. Though it's really kind of like offering them a menu for learning that they can choose from. And the key is really in planning it and in preparing it. All right. So I guess our time is up for today's webinar. I would like to thank everybody, each and every one of you for attending. And I would also like to acknowledge and thank my colleagues. Our Director for Marketing, Alina, is here. Our Director for Customer Success, Arlene, is also here. And our Country Director for Sales, Abe, is also here. And all of our colleagues from Cypher Learning, thank you so much for supporting the webinar. And thank you, teachers. Thank you, everyone, to everyone who attended today. Thank you very much. I hope that somehow you learned something from today's webinar. And we'll see you in the other webinars that we are planning for you. We have a couple more webinars before the end of the year. So in advance, we are inviting everyone to the upcoming webinars. There's going to be a webinar again for webinar on gamification next week. Thank you so much.